Park Se-roy was originally a very naughty male student, so he was often punished by the teacher for holding a bucket of water on his head, but deep inside he was extremely kind. Unlike Se-roy, the cruel Gunwon, who often bullies his classmates, Jinwon is a second-generation tycoon, so no one dares to touch him. Se-roy saw that the scene was unfair and immediately stood up, but his friend Sua, next to him, quickly said, "Don't touch this guy. If he was offended, your whole family would have to die." Unexpectedly, Se-roy still stepped forward to stop him, and even lectured Gunwon in front of the bewilderment of his classmates. He felt extremely embarrassed. Gunwon continued torturing his friend to prove himself. He challenged Se-roy if she wanted to fight. When the two of them were about to fight, the teacher walked in. Gunwon ignored him and continued to torture his friends. The teacher was afraid the tycoon forces should turn a blind eye. Gunwon saw this and continued to provoke Se-roy. Se-roy could not control himself and immediately attacked this guy. He was completely unaware that this action had pushed his whole family into dangerous. Se-roy's father was working at Junwon's father's company. The father was immediately summoned by the manager. Meanwhile, Se-roy was beaten with a stick by the vice principal, tormenting him to the point of miserable for Gunwon to see, and the principal bowed head to apologize to him. At this moment, Junwon's father brought Se-roy's father to come. Junwon's father seemed to be a reasonable person. The president realized that Se-roy's father had worked for many years, so he didn't want to expel Se-roy from school or send Se-roy to prison. Se-roy's father felt extremely grateful, but the president forced Se-roy to kneel down and apologize to his son. Se-roy is an upright and stubborn person. Kneeling down and apologizing is impossible. He said, "My father taught me never to lower my dignity." Hearing this sentence, the president was extremely angry, but unexpectedly Se-roy's father felt very happy. He said that he was very proud to have such an upright son. Hearing this, Junwon came up with a scary idea, and the chairman became even angrier. He immediately fired Se-roy's father. Se-roy, extremely sad because of what he had done, he clenched his fists but couldn't do anything. The two people went to the tavern and confided. He said he was happy that Se-roy had grown up. "If we are upright, we have nothing to regret." The two people drank happily, completely unaware that the disaster had just begun. The next day on the notice board, Se-roy was forced to drop out of school, so the father was unemployed and had no job, and the son was expelled from school. Se-roy's father used all the money he had saved to open a restaurant. Sua often came here to eat with him. At this time, a big incident happened. Unexpectedly, Junwon also liked Sua. He flirted with Sua, but she liked Se-roy, so she didn't care about him. Gunwon has been very angry with Se-roy's family ever since. That night, Se-roy's father was on a motorbike delivering food. Gunwon driving a car, crashing from behind, causing him to fall down the mountain. Se-roy's father died on the spot, the only relative whose death made Se-roy extremely miserable. Moreover, it was the father he loved and admired so much. While Se-roy was sad, the police suddenly came to announce that the perpetrator's side wanted to reconcile. Se-roy felt that they were too disrespectful of human life. When Sua picked up the pile of documents on the ground, she suddenly discovered the car in Junwon's photo. She remembered the license plate number. It was just like the picture. It was clear that the police and the tycoon had arranged for someone to confess on their behalf. Se-roy, angry, immediately went to look for Junwon. That night, it was raining, and Se-roy found Junwon in the hospital garden. He saw Se-roy startled and afraid of falling to the ground. Se-roy vented all her hatred on this bad guy. To him, father meant the whole world, but this bastard cruelly took everything from him. Se-roy just beat Gunwon until he fainted, right at the moment intending to use the rock to kill this guy. Sua brought the police to promptly stop him. They used guns to force Se-roy to put down the rock, or else they would shoot. Seeing that Se-roy did not put down the stone, a policeman loaded a bullet and prepared to pull the trigger. Fortunately, at the time of crisis, Sua promptly stopped in the middle. She advised Se-roy to calm down. She said that his father would be very sad to see him do that. Thinking of father made Se-roy gradually regain his composure and dropped the stone. The police took back their guns, leaving only Se-roy suffering and writhing because he could not take revenge. After that incident, he was taken to prison. The president came to see Se-roy and said he would forgive if Se-roy kneels down and apologizes. Upon hearing this, Se-roy immediately became angry. He said that the person who needs to kneel is your son. When the president heard that, immediately threatened him. The president John said, "Let's see how miserable I will torture you." Through the lawyer, the president knows that Sua is Se-roy's close friend, so he immediately called Sua to his house. Knowing that the girl did not have enough money to go to school, he wanted to bribe Sua to testify for his son. Sua immediately asked how much money he could give. The chairman found it extremely interesting and laughed happily. Later, Junwon appeared. He regretfully wanted to turn himself in, but the chairman insisted that he would not let him do this. He decided that Gunwan would be the one to confess heir, and the heir cannot have a criminal record. Hearing this, Gunwan had to obey his father to make his son more cruel. The president took him to the farm. He caught a chicken and asked Gunwan to kill it. The president forced his son to be more cruel and cruel. Because of the huge inheritance, Gunwan had to obey the order. The father saw this and laughed savagely. The next day, Sae-roy's trial took place. The court sentenced Sae-roy to 3 years in prison for manslaughter. It turned out that the chairman had killed the person who confessed and then blamed Sae-roy. A police officer knew this, very disgruntled but unable to do anything. The police director was bribed and forced to keep his mouth shut. Sae-roy's first day in prison was forced to kneel by the seniors, but he could only laugh loudly, making them feel confused. It turned out that the chairman had arranged for these prisoners to beat Sae-roy. Sua came to visit and saw Sae-roy's bruised face. She felt regretful, so she immediately confessed everything. She said that it was I who betrayed you to get money to go to school. Sae-roy did not blame the girl at all. Before saying goodbye, he also said that he really liked Sua and that when he gets out of prison, he will definitely find her. Sua hoped that Sae-roy would become very rich after being released from prison and at least be able to take revenge on that tycoon. The two said goodbye to each other with a promise. Since then, Sae-roy has always remembered their feuding with the tycoon. 3 years passed so quickly. Today is the day Sae-roy was released from prison. During his time in prison, he became friends with a famous gangster. This boss was extremely impressive for Sae-roy. The first thing Sae-roy did after being released from prison was to go to the pub for the last time to see his father. He promised his father that he would definitely take revenge. Sae-roy first gathered all the information about Janga Tycoon Group, including the situation of his son Gunwan, followed the address of the letter that Sua sent to Sae-roy to a busy street called Itaewon. That day was also the day the street holds a festival, so it is extremely bustling. When Sae-roy was still bewildered, Sua suddenly rushed to hug him. Sae-roy was surprised and very happy beyond belief. She took Sae-roy out for a drink. Sua said she would work at the company of Gunwan's family, but Sae-roy did not blame her. He also said that he would work on an ocean ship for 7 years, because the two of them would have to be apart for 7 years. So Sua was a little sad. The next day, Sae-roy started work on the ocean liner. 7 years quickly passed like a breeze. Currently, Sua is working for the Janga conglomerate and is very successful. She is also highly respected by the chairman. Only that Gunwan has been flirting for 7 years, and she still hasn't fallen, because Sua still loves Sae-roy in her heart. After finishing work, she quickly left the company and went to Itaewon Street, where she and Sae-roy had made a promise 7 years after meeting again. Indeed, Sae-roy was here waiting for her. Sua looked at him with sparkling eyes after many years of separation. She did not expect that Sae-roy's idle words 7 years ago to open a restaurant had now come true. Sae-roy's restaurant name is Danbam. Today is the opening day, so everyone is extremely excited. Who would have thought that after sitting all day there would still be no customers in the shop? While the rental fee on Itaewon Street is extremely expensive, right next to it is Itaewon High School. This group of girls is bullying other girls. Unfortunately for them, they encountered stubborn girl Yi-seo. The girl brought out her phone to broadcast live online. The post immediately became hot, making her a celebrity. But because of this clip, the other parent came to beat Yi-seo. But unexpectedly, the scene had just been filmed by her friend. Yi-seo was truly the quintessence of evil. She scared that terrible mother so much that she couldn't speak. This woman waved her hand and tried to hit. Yi-seo was stopped by Sae-roy. Unexpectedly, Yi-seo took this opportunity to slap the mother back. Sae-roy did not know what happened and chased Yi-seo. Ask her to apologize. Yi-seo lied that my father died because of her. Wait until he gets up. She poked her head out the door and teased me that I was lying, you idiot. It turned out that Yi-seo had a stubborn personality, just like Sae-roy. She often made the principal angry, but couldn't do anything about it. At the same time, at the corporation, Janga Gunwan was presenting a plan to open a drinking shop on Itaewon Street. Unexpectedly, Sua objected. The president saw that the plan was unreasonable, so he tore up the paper and slapped him in the face because the Itaewon store has been losing money for 3 months. Immediately after that, handing over all the stores in Itaewon to Sua to manage, Gunwan angrily found Sua and let out threats. Sua also stubbornly threatened back. She said, "Are you sure you will inherit? Because the chairman has a son outside. This son is Yi-seo's friend." Today, Gunsu and Yi-seo went to Itaewon on a motorbike to play. Unexpectedly, because of the sudden braking to avoid people, Yi-seo flew high. At this time, Sae-roy was handing out leaflets next to her. Seeing the danger, he quickly rushed to help Yi-seo. However, when he looked at her face, he suddenly remembered that she was a disobedient girl. The friend ran to inquire and was immediately hit in the head by Yi-seo. At first, Sae-roy was about to say something to Yi-seo, but suddenly fainted and fell down. Then the two of them took Sae-roy to the hospital. Because Sae-roy was overworked, he fainted like that. At the same time, the president, knowing that Sae-roy opened a restaurant in Itaewon, he ordered Soo-ah to do something to harm Sae-roy. This confused Soo-ah because she had feelings for Sae-roy, but money clouded Soo-ah's conscience. Listen to the president. On this side, Sae-roy woke up in the hospital due to overwork. Yi-seo criticized leaflet advertising as outdated. She kindly showed him how to advertise on social networks to develop faster. Sae-roy took note of the comments and said goodbye. That night, Yi-seo and her friends went to the busy Janga restaurant to experience it. Indeed, there were many customers inside. When she went inside, Soo-ah found that 2 people were under 18 years old, so she chased them back. So the 3 decided to go to Danbam on the opposite side. As soon as entered, they met Sae-roy. Because there were no customers, the wait, even though he knew they were underage, still agreed to let them in. Yi-seo sat down to eat and immediately knew that the restaurant had no customers because it looked too shabby. Meanwhile, Sae-roy went for a walk to learn how the restaurants attract customers. On the way, he accidentally met Soo-ah. He confided that for 2 months, he didn't understand why the restaurant had no customers. When she arrived at the store, Soo-ah realized that Yi-seo group was not yet 18 years old, so she immediately called the police. Inside, Yi-seo's friend has a disrespectful attitude towards employees. Sae-roy immediately defended and scolded the other guy. Need to be reasonable. That young man was in a drunken state and started insulting him. He even grabbed Sae-roy's collar and wanted to hit Sae-roy. Unexpectedly, when he punched Sae-roy, the employee rushed out to block him, then hit him again, causing the young man to lose consciousness. Finally, he took the boiling hot pot and poured it straight at his feet. It turned out that this employee was a thug. At this moment, the police appeared. The police said someone reported there were minors here. As a result, they were all arrested and taken to the station. The normal penalty would be they were forced to close for 2 months. This made Sung-kwon angry and made a mess. At this moment, Gen-won appeared to sponsor his younger brother. According to the president's orders, he laughed like crazy when he saw Sae-roy failed like this, and Sae-roy was extremely angry. The police saw that this was the president's son, so they quickly ignored this matter. Unexpectedly, Sae-roy, I prevented the police from ignoring this. He said that they should treat him like a guilty person, and also asked why they let him go, just because his family was rich. Sae-roy didn't understand why the police were so afraid of the tycoon's child. After speaking, Sae-roy stood up and left. Yi-seo saw this and chased after him, and said, had you lost your mind? Closing for 2 months would mean he would go bankrupt. Yi-seo criticized him for being too straightforward and didn't know how to bow his head, and Sae-roy said that she was just someone who likes to destroy. The two kept arguing for a while. At this time, Gon-won came forward and deliberately brought up the story of how he harmed Sae-roy's father in the past. He provoked Sae-roy to attack him, but his past mistakes had taught him a lesson. Sae-roy tried to be patient, but Jon-won was extremely arrogant. Sae-roy announced that he would dig up the case of Jun-won stabbing his father to death. Sae-roy said that I would definitely make you pay for your sins. Hearing this, Jun-won felt scared, and Yi-seo next to him began to have an interest in Sae-roy. She was determined to do everything she could to help him get revenge. Because of the fight, Yi-seo and Gon-soo were punished for running around the school, and at the same time had to write 100 reports of criticism. But Yi-seo did not write, but only drew a picture of Sae-roy. She was very impressed with Sae-roy's style. Yi-seo immediately went online and started looking for all the information about the case that year. She passed by Sae-roy's shop every day, even though it was closed. A week later, it was New Year, and everyone came together to celebrate the New Year. Yi-seo went into a bar to show off her ID card. She was 18 years old. Even though she was drinking with her friends, she was not happy at all, because she only thought about Sae-roy, the person who helped her that day. Other than him, she couldn't think of anything. On this side, Sae-roy met Soo-ah at a familiar shop. He didn't know that it was she who reported him to the police, causing him to be closed the restaurant for 2 months. Even almost he confessed his love to her. After finishing drinking, Yi-seo wanted to go home, but at this time a pervert who was drinking with her earlier chased after her and wanted to rape her. Yi-seo firmly refused, but he still continued bothered. Yi-seo immediately threw him a lump of money and chased him away. He felt insulted, so he immediately hit Yi-seo. He continued to attack, causing Yi-seo to struggle with him, but this made him angry and chasing after her. Yi-seo had no choice but to run haphazardly into a small alley. She rushed into the men's restroom. Here she met Sae-roy again. Sae-roy was shy, but Yi-seo smiled. Just now this pervert came running. He tried to act calm and wanted to drag Yi-seo to beat. He also lied that he was Yi-seo's boyfriend, but Sae-roy saw her injured face and knew something was wrong. This time, Yi-seo asked for Sae-roy's help, so Sae-roy immediately beat that bastard fought. Then they both went out to run away. Coincidentally met Soo-ah, who had just come, so all 3 of them ran together. Yi-seo had never seen running away so much fun. After seeing that Sae-roy cared about Yi-seo, Soo-ah was very jealous. At this moment, the 2 of them parted ways to go home when Yi-seo stopped. She wanted to invite him out for a drink to thank him for helping her just now. Iso said she would help Sae-Roy promote his restaurant on her Instagram, while Sae-Roy went to get water. The two girls who stayed behind had a very dramatic conversation. Soo-ah arrogantly said, Sae-Roy liked her 10 last year. Iso heard that and said that she liked Sae-Roy. The two of them criticized each other, causing the atmosphere to become extremely tense. Soo-ah said that it was because of Iso that Sae-Roy restaurant had to close. Unexpectedly, Iso is extremely smart. She asks Soo-ah in return if Soo-ah told the police. The statement makes Soo-ah suddenly guilty. Iso despises Soo-ah because she dared to stab Sae-Roy in the back. Soo-ah admitted what she did and challenged Iso. Soo-ah said that no matter what she did, Sae-Roy would still like her. Wait until Sae-Roy got the water back. Soo-ah told the truth and told the police because he thought Sae-Roy liked her, he would forgive her. But Sae-Roy said he felt a bit disappointed. Soo-ah felt too embarrassed, so she took the initiative to leave. The two of them stayed to continue drinking together. Here Iso pointed out all the points that the restaurant needed to improve, from decoration to staff and menu, until Sae-Roy was drunk and confided everything in his heart, which made Iso like him even more. After a while, Sae-Roy stood up, but was so drunk that she fell to the ground. Iso didn't understand when she had loved him. She supported him and suddenly gave him a passionate kiss. Sae-Roy suddenly woke up in hospital. He didn't remember anything about last night's kiss. At this time, Iso confided that she liked a guy to her mother. She said that he was in a difficult situation and had a grudge, but for some reason, I was caught up in it and couldn't get out. Her mother quickly stopped her because she was afraid her daughter would suffer. Iso also wondered whether to continue or stop. She flipped a coin, and if it came up heads, she would stop. Unexpectedly, it was heads. Seeing this, Iso decided to consider it as a face down. She was so happy that she immediately ran to Sae-Roy's pub. As soon as she saw him, Iso fell in love with him. Iso decided to become the manager of restaurant to help him achieve his unfinished dream. Unexpectedly, the tycoon's illegitimate son also came to work here. Jun-soo is the child of a concubine, so he is often abused by Jun-won. The mother, because of following her lover, left Gun-soo behind. The angry president also kicked him out. For many years, Jun-soo has lived like an orphan. He had to do everything to survive. Because he saw Sae-Roy's kindness, he wanted to came to work for him. So the whole restaurant had 5 people. Sae-won said that the small restaurant did not need a manager, but Iso quickly pointed out the points that made the restaurant fail. The first being the staff holding the food in their hands. Like this, customers will feel dirty. The menu does not have typical dishes, making it difficult for customers to choose. The restaurant does not have a background for customers to check in. Moreover, the form of the dish does not look beautiful. After tasting a piece, just want to vomit out. After hearing this, Sae-Roy admired Iso very much. He immediately made her the restaurant manager. He asked everyone to follow Iso's orders. At the same time, the president discovered the female director has bought a lot of shares in the corporation. At this rate, this person will become a major shareholder and can dethrone the chairman. The worried president quickly went to meet the female director and asked if she had any other ideas. Iso here first had the wall demolished to increase the area. She used her design talent to redecorate the restaurant, and soon the space was very beautiful for everyone to check in and take photos. Soon the day the shop reopened, Iso used social networks to promote the pub. Her Instagram was famous, so many people were interested. Thanks to her, Danbam pub was very crowded. There were even many people waiting in line outside. Although the staff were busy, everyone was happy. Soo-ah saw that and was very angry, and Sae-Roy inside was extremely proud of Iso. Just that day, their revenue was more than 3,000 won. The next day, the president and Soo-ah walked on Itaewon Street to survey the situation. He opened up that he wanted Soo-ah to marry his son, Jong-won, but Soo-ah hated him so much that he did not respond to the president's words. He took this opportunity to lead Soo-ah to the door of Danbam restaurant. Seeing that the restaurant was crowded, the president asked Soo-ah to do something to vandalize this restaurant. A few days later, the restaurant was still as crowded as the first day. But because the chef was on leave, Sae-Roy had to come in and cook instead. Work was still going smoothly. The next day, customers suddenly complained that there was hair in the food. The table next to complained that the food was too bland. Chef Hyun-yi's work was negligent, making Iso extremely angry. She scolded the chef and said she had to work very focused. Then Iso wants him to fire Hyun-yi so that the restaurant doesn't close. Sae-Roy called the chef in to point out the problem, but he was kind, so he didn't fire her and suddenly doubled Hyun-yi's salary. Sae-Roy wanted her to try hard to be worthy with the money she received. At the same time, he gave a speech to strengthen everyone's spirit. Everyone should unite and strive together. Only Iso was a bit sad because Sae-Roy did not listen to her. The next morning, Iso accidentally met a group of friends who were bullies. They came here and wanted to strip to humiliate Iso. Fortunately, Gun-soo appeared in time. Through an argument with her classmates, she admitted that she was the one who told the police to make them drink that day. Iso suddenly realized that he had mistakenly blamed Soo-ah. so he slapped this friend. The other friend rushed forward and was also accidentally slapped. The other friend saw that she was scared, so she quickly backed away. As expected, Yiso was as stubborn as Sae-roi. In the following days, Yiso often came to check on Hyunhee's dishes. Thanks to that, Hyunhee also improved her cooking skills. Sae-roi successfully resolved the internal conflict and brought the restaurant up. At the same time at the pub, Soo-ah was sitting and remembering the president's words. He said which side Soo-ah wanted to join. It was so painful that she drank herself until she was drunk. On the way home, she accidentally met Sae-roi in his group. Seeing that this was a private matter, so everyone left. Only Yiso stayed. Soo-ah in a drunken state confessed all her feelings. Soo-ah's sparkling eyes touched Sae-roi's heart. The atmosphere suddenly became romantic. The two of them just went to kiss in front of Yiso. When their lips were almost touching, Yiso promptly used her hand to squeeze Soo-ah's mouth and push her away. After all, she wanted Sae-roi's lips to remain intact. Soo-ah was embarrassed and immediately sobered, but because she wanted to tease Yiso, she kept asking to go eat with Sae-roi's group. Sae-roi couldn't refuse, so he agreed, which made the whole group's atmosphere extremely uncomfortable, especially for Yiso. Soo-ah said that the reason Jangga Group is successful is because they operate in the form of a restaurant chain. Moreover, it was the president who created the recipe, that is why they are so successful. Immediately, Sae-roi expressed his wish. He said he would turn Danbam Restaurant into a larger franchise chain than Jangga Group. Hearing this, everyone was extremely excited. The whole group raised a glass to realize this dream. After drinking, Soo-ah and Yiso had a dramatic conversation in the restroom again. Yiso said she had oppositional defiant disorder. She said she really liked Sae-roi. If anyone got in her way, she would use any trick to destroy that person. Unexpectedly, Soo-ah was not inferior. She declared that if she liked, the two would fight together to the end. On the other hand, at the office of the president of Jangga Group, Soo-ah said that Jangga Pub was very successful. They were so crowded because of Yiso's management. Heard that she has a record high IQ of 162. Soo-ah also said that Sae-roi wants to become a franchise restaurant chain. When the president heard that, he was a little worried. He was afraid that Danbam will be a competitor to Jangga in the future. Danbam's side is getting more and more crowded. Yiso plans to recruit more people to prepare to expand the restaurant. Instead of receiving a salary, she will receive a 20% commission. Unfortunately, Yiseo's mother knew that she had dropped out of college to work at a bar and was extremely angry. But Yiseo said that she already liked Sae-roi and that she wanted to strive for success, even if she failed. The mother and daughter could not find a common voice. Yiseo had to say goodbye to her mother, then picked up her backpack and left home. While she was sad on the bridge, Sae-roi ran past. He knew that her mother had kicked her out for dropping out of college to work with him. Sae-roi was very grateful. At the same time, he also felt sorry for her. He comforted Yiseo in a very naive way, but that made Yiseo feel much happier. The two of them made a promise to help the store reach the culinary peak, becoming a franchise chain surpassing Jangga Group. The two of them stood on the bridge talking about the future until dawn. Because the restaurant was growing more and more, it needed to recruit more staff. Unexpectedly, candidates came for interviews were all people who couldn't work. Later, a very pretty girl came to apply for a job. Seeing this girl, the employee and Sae-roi were very happy. Seeing this, Yiseo immediately refused to accept her, making the employee extremely disappointed. At the end of the interview, a black guy came to apply. His name was Tony, and he was Polish-Korean. Yiseo thought it was okay, so he accepted the job immediately. Because he wanted Danbam Pub to grow stronger than Yiseo, called the television station to ask for an interview, but unexpectedly they agreed to a recording session. When Sae-roi received this news, he was extremely happy. He accidentally revealed this to Soo-ah. The two went for a walk together and talked a lot. Jong-won saw this and was very jealous. He went home to report what happened for Dad. The president knows that Sae-roi is a person with more will than others. His corporation is very afraid of people like Sae-roi, so they made a plan to destroy Sae-roi's Danbam restaurant. The next day, Sae-roi went to the TV station to exchange the recording script. He suddenly met Gun-won, who was also there. He used his relationship to exclude Danbam Pub from that recording. Sae-roi suddenly realized that Soo-ah had revealing this. Gun-won said that he would make him fail, but Sae-roi replied that he would cause his company to collapse because the recording session was cancelled. Sae-roi was very sad. Yiseo was by his side, encouraging and comforting. The two then walked on the street and suddenly met Soo-ah. But this time, Sae-roi coldly walked by, making her very sad. Unexpectedly, Yiseo then kindly told Sae-roi the truth. The person who called the police that day was not Soo-ah. Upon hearing this, Sae-roi immediately ran to find Soo-ah to apologize. After running for a while, he saw her at the bus stop. Sae-roi immediately took Soo-ah's hand. He said that he would be determined to deal with the Jangga Group soon, so that she would not have to suffer. At this moment, the bus arrived. The two of them parted ways from here. After Soo-ah left, Roy immediately called a mysterious person who was monitoring Jenga Group stocks. This person reported that Roy's shares were worth more than 10 billion won. Roy immediately ordered to buy all of Jenga's shares. Hearing this news, the assistant rushed to inform the president. Roy had bought a lot of Jenga's shares. It turned out Roy bought shares 8 years ago, which was also when Jong-won had a scandal that caused the shares to hit rock bottom at extremely low prices. Now Roy is the third largest shareholder of Jenga Group. When he learned about this, the chairman was shocked. He laughed to the point of going crazy. He didn't expect Roy to be so good. President Jong immediately went to Danbam pub to meet Roy. He thought Roy was a chicken, but turned out to be a fox. 8 years ago, he was using all of his father's insurance money to buy stocks from the person who murdered his father. Both faces proved extremely dangerous. However, Roy still welcomed him very thoughtfully. He gave orders for the chef to cook as deliciously as possible. Roy personally brought the food to the table. The president suddenly asked him what was the purpose of buying his shares and why did he buy so much. At this point, everyone was stunned because they knew Roy had a lot of money. Of course, Roy could not say his intention to acquire Jenga Group. He lied that he bought it because he saw potential. President Jong and everyone enjoyed the food because it was delicious, so he ate it all at once. When finished eating, the chairman suddenly mentioned Roy's father. He advised Roy to give up and not confront him. He also threatened Roy that if you continued, you will fail miserably. Hearing about his real father, Roy cannot hide his emotions. He does not hesitate to talk about his revenge plan. Roy vows to make Chairman Jong and Jong-won pay for killing his father. Roy even shouted angrily. His words made the atmosphere extremely tense. Chairman Jang was angry and wanted to respond to the end. Lee-seo now knew how reckless and talented Roy was. So Roy also revealed that is just the first step of the plan to take over Jenga Group. And his card is his friend Ho-jin, who helped him do everything while he was in prison. It turned out that he was the person who was abused by Jong-won, and that Roy stood up to protect, to repay kindness. Ho-jin secretly managed finances and business for Roy because he majored in finance only. In 10 years, Ho-jin turned Roy's 100,000 won into a huge sum of money. A few days ago, they went to meet the CEO of Jenga Company. Roy proposed to cooperate with the overthrowing the director President John, then made her the new president of the group. Because Roy's father was also a person who was grateful to the director, so she also wanted to repay the favor, but the prerequisite was that she share must be larger than Chairman Jang's. A few days later they met again. Both sides shook hands and agreed to cooperate. The next day the director went to Chairman Jang's house to play chess. She advised Chairman Jang not to stubbornly hand it over the company to his son. He should choose a good person to lead the group. After the director left, Secretary Kim brought a few photos to President Jang, which were evidence of Roy and the director working together. President John began to come up with a plan to cope, and Lee-seo's side began to have a different view of Roy. As smart as she was, but she didn't even guess that Roy would be so good. Gunsu is curious to ask what Roy's feud is like, but Lee-seo doesn't know. So Gunsu ran home to ask his father, but the president did not answer, and cursed him for being incompetent, also working for his enemy. Hearing this, Junsu felt humiliated and left. After suffering the insults from his father, he called Lee-seo to go out and confide in her. Junsu said he really liked Lee-seo, but Lee-seo said she would give him a chance if he stole the company from his father. This sentence made Junsu stunned. When the two returned, they saw Roy carrying her backpack and leaving. Seeing that Lee-seo immediately gave up all her work to follow him as best as she could, she stubbornly insisted on following Roy. Finding Lee-seo too cute, Roy agreed to let her follow him. The two got on a bus to a small countryside. On the bus, Roy recounted her life as harsh as hell. A little later, they went to the house of the former police officer investigating the accident that year. 10 years ago, he knew that the police chief had falsely accused Roy, but he couldn't do anything. That day he regretted it, so he resigned and went home to be with his wife. He regretted the unjust case, so he knelt down to apologize to Roy. He said that he would pay anything, even if it was his life, because his daughter was still young. He did not dare to confront President John. Roy did not blame him, but only advised him to be brave and strong. That night it rained very heavily, so Lee-seo and Roy slept here. Lee-seo suddenly said that as long as the police officer testifies, Jong-won will have to go to jail, which means that Chairman John will be turned against the shareholders. This is the key for Roy to be able to overthrow Chairman John. Look at the scar on the Roy rail. Lee-seo knew he had gone through hard and miserable days, which made her love Roy even more. Lee-seo burst into tears and promised herself to protect this man all her lives. But the enemy did not leave them alone to be happy. The next morning, the old owner announced that the house had been sold. They knew that the new owner had increased the rental price, and the lease contract only had 6 months left, making everyone worried. Roy called the new landlord and wanted to negotiate. Unexpectedly, that person was Chairman Jiang. Roy was surprised to find out that he was being played with again. Seo knew about it and was very angry and scolded. To negotiate. Roy went directly to meet President Jiang. Roy lowered himself and begged President Jiang to concession of premises. Of course, a dangerous person like him could not ignore it. He said that wherever Roy rented space in the future, he would buy it back there, to make it impossible for Roy to do any more business. Roy continued to lower himself and ask what you wanted. He wanted Roy to kneel down and apologize to him. Roy got angry and said he was the one at fault. He said that the more you harmed me, the more I stronger. Then Roy made a strong declaration of war to President Jiang. Then he coldly left. Roy went out and met Sua. She knew what happened and immediately asked the president to withdraw the decision to revoke the premises. But the chairman was upset and immediately kicked Sua out because the restaurant was about to close. The group went out to drink. When they left, Jonao apologized to Roy for the trouble his family had caused. Roy did not blame him and still very sympathetic to him. The other 4 people invited each other to the bar to dance. Unexpectedly, it was Tony's turn to be prevented from entering. Here, there was a rule banning Africans. Tony asserted that he was Korean, but the security guards still wouldn't let him in. Seo said no one would believe what the black guy said, causing Tony to sadly leave immediately. The next morning, the bar was painted everywhere, writing that they were the one racism. Everyone who saw this scene didn't know what else to say. Jong-soo confided in Seo about his decision. He would quit his job according to his father's wishes to beg him to cede the premises. Seo heard that and was extremely grateful. Then Jong-soo resigned. Like that, the restaurant will no longer be troubled by Janga Group. Of course, Roy did not agree. He did not want anyone to sacrifice for him, while Seo enthusiastically supported. Seeing this, Roy immediately snatched up her management sign. He angrily said Seo was emotionless and not qualified to be a manager. She devoted herself to the restaurant but was scolded, so she also angrily argued back. Unexpectedly, Roy loudly scolded Seo. He would not. She never exchanged feelings for benefits. Seo said she had given up her whole life for him. So even if he fired her, she would still be the manager of the restaurant. Hearing this, Roy was extremely surprised. Roy decided to buy a house here for them to work. Seo saw more and more that Roy lived with gratitude. This changed her way of living according to reason. She immediately ran to apologize. Jung-soo, taking this opportunity, Gon-soo confessed his love to Seo, but Seo said he only liked Roy. Next, Seo posted an article about racism. The article received a lot of support and became hot. Seo also announced to everyone if anyone touches Roy, she will kill them all. When read this article, Tony came back. Seo promised to help him apply for Korean citizenship. Seeing Seo change her life and become more emotional made everyone happy. Roy immediately gave her a restaurant management sign and was very proud of Seo. Only Jung-soo next to him felt sad. On the other hand, the secretary said that Roy had just bought a house in Itaewon for Chairman Jiang, causing him to panic because Janga's shares had increased very high. Roy ordered all of these shares to be sold for a large profit, so as not to be fooled by the Chairman Jiang. Roy bought a fairly big house in Itaewon. While the group was together, renovating the new restaurant, suddenly an old woman told Roy that this house was very unlucky. No boss had ever worked here without losing money and going bankrupt. After hearing this, everyone was a little confused. In order to help the new restaurant develop, Seo livestream on social platforms, thus helping the restaurant become much more famous. The president knew the key point to help Roy succeed. That is thanks to Seo. He sinisterly invited Seo to his house to meet. He let Seo attended the press conference of the Janga Group. When the chairman was giving a speech about the company's orientation, Seo raised his hand to speak. She deliberately asked the chairman if there was any chance for another brand to surpass Janga. The chairman angrily said that if he were still alive, there would be no way. But Seo's boldness made a very strong impression with the chairman. As soon as Seo was about to leave, the secretary quickly called her into a private room to meet the chairman. Mr. Jiang personally invited her to eat at a 5-star restaurant. The chairman knew that Seo had an IQ of 162 and extremely good, so he wanted to invite Seo to work for Janga Group with a salary 10 times higher than Roy's. But Seo flatly refused. She also said she could still work for him in the future, but only when she has grown Danbam to become strong. Hearing this sentence, the chairman was extremely interested. At this time, Roy was staying at Ho Jin's house because expanding his business caused him a tax headache. Ho Jin came up with a plan to establish a joint stock company, so Roy immediately met with a group. And finally, the group agreed to name the store chain Itaewon Class, and the company name would be IC Joint Stock Company. At this time, the former police officer and his daughter also came for Roy case in the past. The father let his daughter sit alone and then went out to talk to Say Roy. The girl saw the cute cat and immediately chased after. She accidentally got lost and everyone searched but couldn't find her. Luckily, fate helped her met Director Kang. She lent her phone to call her father. Then the police officer and Say Roy came to pick up her child. But with their police skills, the father quickly discovered that someone was following them. He suddenly turned around and caught sight of this guy and stole this camera. It turned out this guy was always lurking around to take pictures of Director Kang's whereabouts. Needless to say, they knew it was a trick of the chairman, which means that the chairman is very cautious. When Chairman Zhang saw Yi Seo's shop's advertisement for Itaewon class, he saw that Yi Seo is really talented. Now, he is worried, not only because Say Roy, but also Yi Seo. The secretary also announced that his surveillance of Director Kang had been exposed, but the chairman did not panic and said to ignore her. Now the most important thing is to drag Yi Seo come back to work for them. Hearing this made Sua extremely shocked. At the same time, the secretary said that the policeman was the one who provided food for Say Roy. The president immediately ordered that the policeman be bribed. That night, Say Roy went to meet. Sua was drinking. In a romantic atmosphere, he said he liked Sua. Unexpectedly, the next morning when he came to the restaurant, Yi Seo said that if he dated Sua, she would quit the job. At the same time, the president called the policeman who provided food for Say Roy came to his house. Mr. Zhang tempted him to give up Say Roy and sign a contract with Janga. But the past has taught the former policeman a lesson. Now he just wants to be a good example for daughter. So, even though the chairman offered him an extremely lucrative contract, the former police officer still refused, saying he believed that Dan Bam would surpass Janga in the future. The president threatened that if he opposes him, there is only a way to die. The police officer thought he was going to harm his daughter, so he held his hand tightly. He threatened the president again and said he was the police officer in the case 10 years ago. If there was any problem with his family, he will turn the case over, making the chairman extremely worried. While his son Jongwon comes to find Yi Seo, Jongwon announced to everyone that he wanted to invite Yi Seo to work. Yi Seo asked him out for drinks, making Say Roy at home extremely worried. Jongwon lured Yi Seo into Jungga Group with a huge contract. The new position is the marketing director. At the same time, he offered a salary of 250,000 won a month, 50 times the current salary, making Yi Seo stunned. But he did not know that Yi Seo was extremely smart. She pretended to agree because admired him, then flattered this guy to cloud 9, tricking him into telling the whole truth about the car crash that killed Say Roy's father 10 years ago. Stupid. Jane Won just told it all. But it all happened, were all recorded by Yi Seo. Jane Won knew she was trapped in stealing her phone, but Yi Seo was faster. He was about to hit her when hot coffee was thrown in his face. She declared that anyone who dared to touch Say Roy would kill that person. But Gyeonwon is not the average person. He chased after and grabbed Yi Seo and immediately gave her a slap. This guy forcibly demanded to steal the phone. Yi Seo was helpless and could only scream for help. People saw this and there were a lot of people around. Unexpectedly, Jongwon held a handful of money and threw it in the air. Everyone was busy picking up money, so no one paid attention to them anymore. Thought Yi Seo would easily have his phone stolen. Unexpectedly, Wen was in danger. Say Roy came to the rescue, saying that Yi Seo's face was injured. Say Roy was extremely angry and tried to hit Gunwon. Luckily, Yi Seo stopped Say Roy in time to avoid getting caught in his trap. As soon as the police were there, promptly took Gunwon away. To thank Say Roy hugged Yi Seo. This was also the first time she feels so happy, even though she was in pain. Yi Seo said the time had come. She posted the recording online, causing a stir in public opinion. This caused Jangga Group's shares to plummet miserably. Chairman Zhang angry he beat his destructive son. Gunwon also felt extremely humiliated when he was beaten. Director Khan witnessed everything, knowing in her heart that he could not serve such an incompetent person in the future. So she immediately went to see Say Roy. Yi Seo said, because the stock price was falling and shareholders were in turmoil. So this is the opportunity to thoroughly take down Chairman Zhang. But first, the former police officer must testify that Gonwon killed Say Roy's father. The next morning, they went to the former police officer's house but didn't found him. He was frantically looking for his child. Director Khan discovered her sitting alone in a chair. It turned out that she knew her father had done wrong in the case 10 years ago, so he left home. Say Roy saw father and the daughter was very sentimental. He had to postpone asking them to testify. When he returned, Yi Seo said that the second condition to take down Chairman Zhang was when Chairman Zhang stood up to defend Gonwon in a wrong way. At the same time, Chairman Zhang also met with the lawyers to find a way to deal with it. Sua suggested that Jongwon must be sent to prison to save the company. If Director Kang betrayed him, the chairman would be dismissed. Although the advice was very wise, she did not expect that Chairman Jiang would refute it. He firmly affirmed that he would rather leave the company than leave his son. Sua quickly reported this news to Director Kang and Sai Roy, thinking everything went well. So Director Kang immediately held an internal meeting to propose the dismissal of Chairman Jiang because he let his family's feelings seriously affect the company, completely unaware that he had fallen into his trap. The next morning, the shareholders' meeting to remove the chairman took place. Indeed, during the meeting, there was a rebellion. Mr. John suddenly told the whole truth about the case that year, agreeing to send his son to prison to save the company, causing the group's dismissal plan to completely collapse. Director Kang said realized that she had been deceived. At the same time, the chairman's driver took Gun Won to surrender, seeing that he quickly got out of the car and ran away. Rushing all the way to where his father had a press conference, Gun Won recognized his father sold himself out for the position of president of the company. The bitter son shed 2 tears, and Mr. Jiang left with an expressionless face, realizing that the plan had failed. Sai Roy was extremely desperate. The chairman called Director Kang to sarcastically say a few sentences. Wanting to take me down, seems very young and green. I have underestimated a sinister old man like that too much. The president then demoted Mrs. Kang to be an employee of a small branch. This failure made her spirit go down. Now there is only hope for his fighting effort. Sai Roy. The next day the trial took place. Jong Won killed Sai Roy's father, so he was sentenced to 7 years in prison. Even so, Chairman Jiang was still very comfortable, because to him, the company was everything. After this, Sai Roy immediately went to his father's grave. It took him 11 years to catch the person who harmed his father and pay for crime. Sai Roy offered his father a glass of wine like the last time they drank together. Really, the wine is still as bitter as his heart when he lost his father. Back with Danbam, Jong-soo decided to quit his job because his brother was in prison, so he wanted to go home to get his inheritance. Because Yi-seo had said she would give him a chance if he takes over Jungga. Jong-won is currently in prison. Sua comes to announce that his father has revoked all his shares, making Gun-won crazy. He did not expect his father to be so evil, and Gun-soo also returned to see his father. He said he would listen to everything his father said, as long as he inherited Jungga. He told his father that he would build Jungga to become strong. Seeing the ambition of the son, the president was very happy. He immediately transferred the job to Sua, forcing her to train Jong-soo to become the best. At the restaurant, the chef had plastic surgery to become beautiful. When preparing to cook for the show, Tony was distracted, so he mistakenly put curry powder in the dish. Hyun-yi quickly noticed it and screamed loudly. Unexpectedly, this mistake created a delicious new flavor. As a result, Danbam's curry dish won the first prize, which helped raise Danbam's reputation. Very quickly, investors came looking to expand the Danbam brand. This was a great opportunity to create a franchise brand. Yi-seo naturally realized that this was great. She compiled a book about the characteristics of Danbam, ready to invite investors and franchise. Unexpectedly, Sai Roy thinks now is not the time. While Yi-seo said that having someone invest is a golden opportunity, if they open one by one, they will never catch up with Jungga, resulting in a heated argument between the two. However, Ho-jin also saw Yi-seo's plan is very correct. While on this side, investors are constantly calling to urge Yi-seo. If she is slow, they will invest in another restaurant, causing Yi-seo a huge headache. She dragged Sai Roy to the rooftop, nagging about opening a chain of restaurants. Upon hearing this, Sai Roy no longer hesitated. He decided to take a risk this time with Yi-seo. The two of them were completely unaware that they had fallen into Chairman Jiang's trap. They immediately came to meet that talented investor. He appreciated that Danbam had a very talented manager. Taking that opportunity, Sai Roy firmly offered 5 billion won for the franchise. Yi-seo was very hesitant, but did not expect the investor agreed. Very quickly, this news became hot, thus attracting many other investors to call. 3 people could not answer the phone. On the first day, they received more than 10 billion won in investment. The number of people registering to open a shop has reached more than 50 people. They immediately opened a representative office, both doing business and franchising training. In the evening, when the group returned, they suddenly saw an injured old lady. The group rushed her to the hospital for treatment. Unexpectedly, this was Tony's grandmother. Tony showed him a photo of the missing father, who turned out to be her son. She cried and said loudly that his father had passed away in a traffic accident many years ago. Tony tearfully received his grandmother back. The next day, the food competition came to the second round. The restaurants were frantically cooking on the program. Hyun-yi cooked the restaurant's signature soft tofu soup, and Jungga cooked fermented soybeans. Jong-soo ate both dishes, so he knew Jungga would lose. As expected, Danbam continued to win the contest. Everyone in Sai Roy's group couldn't hide their joy, while Sua's group was very depressed. After the competition, Sai Roy invited the two of them to eat. Sua took Sai Roy's arm and walked first. Iso was upset and came up to interrupt the two people. Everyone had so much fun drinking for a while that they wanted to play the truth game. Iso was unlucky enough to be the opening act. Gonsu asked if he won. Janga would she love him because she promised Iso had to agree to this. The next unlucky person was Seiroi. Sungkwan asked Seiroi and Sua what their relationship was. Unexpectedly, Seiroi said he liked her. The answer hurt Iso's heart. Gonsu suddenly asked, what do you consider Iso to be? Sadly, the answer is a younger sister. Hearing this, Iso couldn't help but cry. She sacrificed everything for him and now feels bitter because so embarrassed. Iso quickly stood up and left. Under Hyunyi's urging, Seiroi quickly stood up and chased Iso. Iso was hurt and couldn't hide her heart anymore. With tears in her eyes, she kept saying, I love you. I love you more than anything in the world. In the past 2 years, I have given up everything to bet on you, including dropping out of college or leaving my mother at home. Thinking Seiroi was easy to touch and accepted love, Iso unexpectedly only received a harsh rejection, both heartbroken and humiliated. In the end, Iso left in the cold snowy winter, the person she promised to protect with her whole life. Now he's cruel to her again. Iso is in extreme pain, sitting in the middle of the street, crying and can't stop. Returning to Janga Company, the president was very angry because they lost 2 rounds of cooking competition in a row. He ordered that if they lost in the final round, Gonsu would definitely never have the right to inherit. Listen to this sentence. Gonsu immediately asked his father to give him the program. He affirmed that he would win the final round. After the contest, Danbam was more crowded than before, but Iso decided to take a break for a while so that Seiroi could clearly understand what true feelings are. Knowing that Iso quit her job, Junsu quickly informed his father. President Jang realized this was a golden opportunity. Indeed, the next morning when Seiroi came to the office, there was no one. All left investors simultaneously texted to withdraw capital. This caused the entire Seiroi group to fall into crisis. At least they spent more than 1 billion won on the recent campaign. It turned out that the other investor was Chairman Jang. Installed to trick Danbam, 50 stores all came to Danbam to demand compensation. They were extremely angry with Seiroi because everyone lost money to open a restaurant. Sua followed the president's order to bring a vase of flowers. Above was a message congratulating Seiroi. Returns to the golden stream. Reading this sentence made Seiroi angrily shout. He said that you can cancel the contract if you want. I will have enough money to compensate everyone. But the most important business is trust. So you trust, please continue to support, according to the schedule. The words certainly appeased the store owners. But now, where the money will come from to continue. Seiroi does not know. Sua advised Seiroi to run away and living happily with her, while Seiroi wanted to give up. Iso called. She encouraged him and promised to fight with Seiroi to the end. As expected, she regained Seiroi's spirit. The next day, Iso returned back to work. The important thing right now is to find a new investor. According to the list, they saw a 70-year-old real estate tycoon. Surprisingly, that was Tony's grandmother. She was even an enemy the godmother helped President Jang develop. The old lady then went to Danbam with Director Kang. She asked if he needed any help. Unexpectedly, Seiroi was stubborn and did not want to open his mouth to ask for her help. The grandmother was angry and scolded at you for having too much pride and not knowing how to humble yourself. She said you would fail because of that stubbornness. Then she angrily stood up and left. Director Kang was disappointed with Seiroi, so he also left. In the evening, he looked back at the staff, who were hard work day and night. Seiroi understood that they were suffering because of his high pride. Thinking of this, he decided to call Tony to make an appointment to meet his grandmother. Tony informed her that she had arrived on Jeju Island. Seiroi immediately called Iso. Unexpectedly, the grandmother next to her grabbed the phone and started talking. She kept exclaiming that Seiroi was an idiot. Seiroi asked her to invest, but she made a condition that they must win the final of the best restaurant contest. Seiroi promised he would definitely win this final round. But life is not like a dream. Gunsu here also wants to win the contest to become the heir. He knows Danbam won the previous 2 rounds thanks to Chef Hyunyi. So suddenly a dirty plan came up in his heart. Jonsu discussed with Sua that they would announce that Chef Hyunyi is transgender. The next day, Seiroi along with Chef Hyunyi to the competition. Indeed, the news of Hyunyi's transgender was all over the internet. Songkwan quickly showed this news to the 2 people. Everyone in the studio was talking about this, making Hyunyi feel offended, so she turned around and left. Of course, Junsu was the one who bribed the journalist to publish this article. Sua was surprised to see Junsu not ignore any trick. On this side, Hyunyi ran into the women's restroom but was chased away. Then Seiroi found her back in the men's restroom. He confided from the bottom of his heart to give her courage. If you give up, everyone will trample on you even more. You have to win the contest to win the hatred in everyone's hearts. Listening this word, Hyun-yi has regained her confidence. Inside the studio thought, Hyun-yi gave up. Jeon-soo asked the program to start without Danbam participating. But suddenly, Hyun-yi opened the door and walked in with a very confident look. Jeon-soo started to feel dizzy. The program still continued filming, with Hyun-yi's return. Living up to everyone's expectations, she created the ultimate dish. Everyone was anxiously waiting for the results. The judges declared Hyun-yi the final winner, an indescribable surge of happiness. Hyun-yi's spectacular return helped Danbam win. Strangely, President Jang knew his son was playing tricks on Hyun-yi, but did not scold him but praised the son knows to use tricks. Just a bigger ambition is enough to inherit. At this moment, Lee-seo came to the company and hit Jeon-soo. She hoped he would regain consciousness, but Jeon-soo had now truly become evil. As long as he could win Jang-ga to love her, he was willing to do anything. Lee-seo also was helpless against this jerk. She ran back to meet Se-roy. It was true that only Se-roy could bring her happiness. Because they won the contest, they went to meet the grandmother to sign an investment contract. This time Se-roy is also very determined. He wants to develop the restaurant to reach the whole world, not just in Korea. The news that Danbam received an investment of 30 billion won flooded the internet, making Jeon-soo sad. He asked, how did Soo-ah make Se-roy collapse? In his heart now, there is only one thing to harm Se-roy. His father also realized this, so he agreed to let him attend the leadership meeting. He directly announced to everyone that Jeon-soo would be the heir to Jang-ga. Jeon-soo, thanks to his despicable tricks, was quickly had high appreciate. The news of Jeon-soo's inheritance in the newspaper made his brother in prison restless. He frantically practicing to one day return. Time has passed 4 years. Se-roy's IC company has grown extremely strong, and Lee-seo has also become extremely beautiful. Se-roy is now the general director of dozens of small companies. During the meeting, the leaders presented many problems that needed to be solved. Unexpectedly, Lee-seo used his intelligence in just a few words to help the other directors agree. Jeon-soo also returned after 4 years of studying abroad. He confidently stood in front of the board of directors to present his plan. He said he would buy a cheap road and upgrade it like Itaewon, push up the land price, and then sell it all to get rid of the goods. This deal is expected to earn at least a few hundred billion. The chairman immediately agreed after hearing it. This showed that Jeon-soo had a very strategic vision. Mr. Jang appointed him to destroy Sayoi's corporation and then inherit. At this time, his eldest son Jeon-won was also released from prison, but Chairman Jang's condition is very bad at this time. He often gets dizzy and faints. The doctor said that the chairman has terminal pancreatic cancer. The cruel Jeon-soo only wants his father to die so he can inherit. Jeon-won, after being released from prison, visited his father. 4 years of practice helped him become calm. Jeon-soo bluntly told his father before he died to choose an heir, because he knew he had an advantage over his older brother. But Jeon-won did not give up. He said that in the past 4 years, he had memorized all of his father's ideals, and said that Jang-ga must be given to him. Over here, Se-roy was meeting Soo-ah for dinner, but Ho-jin called urgently so he had to rush to leave. When he got there, he scolded Se-roy for being so stupid. He is the president of IC, but is dating the director of a rival company. Have you forgotten about your father's feud? It turns out Ho-jin is worried because Jeon-won has been released from prison. Moreover, President Jang only lived for a few more months. Hearing this sentence, Se-roy couldn't believe his ears. He immediately picked up the phone and called President Jang. He said, I really didn't want you to die. You had to live to compete with me. It's interesting that the only person who wants the president to continue to live is Se-roy. The words made Chairman Jang laugh happily. Se-roy then returned to the company and saw Lee-seo sleeping tiredly on the table. He immediately took off his jacket and put it on. Suddenly waking up Lee-seo, she felt very touched, and Se-roy suddenly felt confused. The next morning, everyone had a meeting to discuss Jang-ga's inheritance. If Jeon-soo becomes the chairman on a stretcher, it will be dangerous for them, so it is very necessary for them to stop this. Lee-seo comes up with a plan. First, they must remove Jeon-soo as CEO, then put her in his place because Lee-seo also has shares. The plan was perfect and everyone immediately agreed. When only Se-roy and Lee-seo were left to discuss the plan, Soo-ah suddenly called to invite Se-roy to dinner, but Se-roy refused because he was too busy. Lee-seo saw that and said some jealous words. Unexpectedly, Se-roy was upset and emphasized that he did not consider her a woman. This hurt Lee-seo greatly. Seeing Lee-seo sad, Se-roy suddenly felt guilty, but did not admit it in front of her. Lee-seo immediately understood. After hearing that, this proved that he had begun to have feelings for her. On this side, Chairman Jang also knew about Se-roy's group's plan. He immediately thought of a way to deal with the deposed director. Lee Seo's side went to meet the shareholders of Janga Group every day. She devoted all her energy to convincing them to take her side. Realizing that Lee Seo was so good, most of them really liked it. But because she worked so hard that her nose bled, while Lee Seo was working hard, Se-roy was going to meet Sua. She asked him if he still liked her. At this time, Lee Seo walked in and saw two people. She's so disappointed in Se-roy and immediately left. Se-roy wanted to chase her, but Sua selfishly held him back. Only later did Se-roy stand up to chase. It was too late. Lee Seo sadly returned home to her mother. The next day, the Janga Group shareholders meeting took place. Lee Seo was sick but still struggled until she fainted from exhaustion. So the meeting took place in Lee Seo's absence. As a result, her appointment as CEO was also rejected. President Jang's side completely prevailed, but Se-roy did not care and rushed to the hospital to visit Lee Seo. She quickly came up with a plan B. Seeing that Lee Seo was too enthusiastic, Se-roy asked her to take a break or she would be fired. After saying that, Se-roy left. Sung-kwon saw that and immediately chased after him. Se-roy too stupid. Saying he was still blind like Sua was a mistake. Those words made Se-roy gradually wake up. Seeing the necklace that Lee Seo liked, he immediately went to buy it for her. Unexpectedly, when he returned to the hospital, he did not have the courage to give it to her, just stood outside. At the same time, Gun-won came to meet the society boss. He threw a backpack of money on the table to hire someone to harm Se-roy's group. Se-roy's side was busy taking over Lee Seo's work. When he opened Lee Seo's document drawer, he accidentally read her entire diary, plus the picture Lee Seo drew of him. He partly understood Lee Seo's love for him. He suddenly realized he also loved her very much. Se-roy immediately rushed to the hospital. He drove quickly to confess his love to Lee Seo. Lee Seo in the hospital also discovered the necklace that Se-roy gave her. She was happy when know that Se-roy had feelings for her. At this moment, the fake doctor walked in and said it was time for the injection. When Se-roy arrived at the hospital, he only saw a messy room. Someone sent him a picture of Lee Seo being kidnapped and an anonymous message asking Se-roy to come alone to save Lee Seo. Se-roy drove like crazy trying to get there as quickly as possible. Gun-soo saw that something was wrong and chased after him. Moments later, Se-roy arrived at the rendezvous point on the road through the forest. Seeing Gun-soo coming, Jun-won came up with the idea to take down his younger brother as well. He immediately ordered a car to rush out and hit his younger brother. Seeing that Se-roy rushed to save him and was knocked down the mountain. When he was about to die, he suddenly thought about Lee Seo. So regretful that he had not yet accepted his love for her. Jun-soo saw that and quickly called an ambulance, but Jun-won's brother still sent someone to assassinate him. Luckily, Gun-soo was able to call Sung-kwon in time to inform Sung-kwon. They knocked Gun-soo unconscious and threw him in the same place as Lee Seo. Jun-won outside thought that Se-roy was dead, but the boss still sent someone to check. Luckily, the emergency room had arrived, so they quickly left. They took Se-roy to the hospital in an unconscious state, with extremely weak signs of life. Everyone was very worried because they didn't know where Lee Seo was. The former police officer saw the camera and immediately knew it was a kidnapping. Se-roy's phone still has anonymous messages, but now that she tells the police they might kill her, Sung-kwon decides to go deal with them himself, while Jun-won is still torturing the two people. He threatened Lee Seo, making Jun-soo very angry. Lee Seo pretended to be scared and miserable, but as soon as Jun-won left, she immediately regained her composure and untied herself. At the same time, Sung-kwon went to the boss that Jun-won hired. He begged the boss please stop. After all, they were in prison for 10 years with Se-roy, but they didn't cooperate and beat him. So Sung-kwon took this opportunity to call the police and successfully brought them all. Police station. Lee Seo worked hard to cut the rope until morning. She quickly untied Gun-soo so that the two of them could join forces to escape. At the same time, Se-roy was still in a coma. In the dream, the father and son were at the bridge leading to the other side of the world. The father said, "If you have a hard time, go with me." Se-roy emotionally hugged his father, but he said he owed Lee Seo too much, so he couldn't go yet. After said that, Se-roy stepped back from the bridge. Then suddenly Se-roy woke up. His strong desire to live pulled him out of death. But Se-roy cried for a long time. Being separated from his father was truly painful. It's impossible to describe. At this time, Gun-won was also calling his father, but in contrast to Se-roy, he continuously blamed his father. He said it was all because of his father, so now he had no way back. He did this in order to take revenge for what his father had treated him 5 years ago, and at the same time harm the person who caused him and his father to separate. Jun-won conveniently said the location where he locked the two people. He challenged his father to come. He will release the hostages. Chairman Jang almost collapsed after hearing this. It was true retribution for what he taught his son in the past. After speaking, Gun-won returned to the detention place. Jun-soo ambushed and suddenly beat him. Lee Seo wanted to beat him more to feel secure and run away, but Gun-soo stopped her. So the two people just left subjectively. They ran outside and tried to get in a car to escape, but before they could run, the gangsters shined their headlights to block them. The boss and Gunwan appeared and surrounded the two people. On this side, Sae-Roy just woke up and immediately wanted to go save Iseo. Seeing that, So-Ah stopped him too drastically. Sae-Roy immediately declared that he loved Iseo. After saying that he was determined to go save Iseo, even though he knew he might die, Sae-Roy received news that the chairman knew where Iseo was captured. He immediately went to Chairman Zhang's house with injuries. Sae-Roy threatened to report to the police if Chairman Zhang did not say where the hostages were. Unexpectedly, the old man was not easy to threaten. He forced Sae-Roy to kneel in exchange for Iseo's life. Sae-Roy would rather die than kneel, but for Iseo he gave up all his pride and knelt down. The old man saw that and laughed like crazy. In the end, his greatest wish was fulfilled, but in return he sold his son and wrote down the location on paper. Seeing this, Sae-Roy stood up and declared that he was no longer my opponent, the one who sold his son in exchange for his opponent's kneeling. It's all so despicable. You don't deserve to be my enemy anymore. After saying that, Sae-Roy snatched the address and this man then left, leaving the old man extremely angry. On this side, the gangsters were surrounding and preparing to kill two people. Iseo stepped back and grabbed the shovel, and Gunsu picked up the iron bar at his feet. Iseo called on the count of 3 to rush in to fight, but as soon as she finished counting, she dropped the shovel and run away, leaving Gunsu behind to try to hold them off. Because Junsu likes Iseo, Junsu used the remaining strength to hold them back. Just as the boss was about to finish Junsu, Junwon stopped him, a little conscience left so that he did not harm his brother. They then got in the car and chased Iseo, who was running hard. Right when she was about to be stabbed, Iseo promptly ran into the field. The boss let his two juniors chase, while he and Gonwon drove to block the road. Iseo ran to the road in agony when their car rushed over. At this moment, Sae-Roy also arrived. He stepped on the accelerator and accelerated at full speed straight into the enemy's car. Sae-Roy's car was better, so the two of them got out safely. Iseo happily ran up and hugged Sae-Roy, just as Gonwon and the boss were also coming. Sae-Roy begged if the boss could withdraw for the sake of previous relationship. Didn't expect this guy didn't feel like that. Seeing that Songkwan decided to stay and block the way, letting the two people run first, he used all his strength to quickly defeat them, leaving only the boss to fight fiercely. Junwon jumped into the car to chase Sae-Roy. After the two people ran for a while, Sae-Roy was in pain and couldn't run. He stopped and quickly said he loved Iseo. Just as the two of them hugged each other in the middle of the street, Junwon accelerated the car and drove towards it. Sae-Roy got angry and took a brick and threw it straight at the car, forcing him to stop. Sae-Roy told Iseo to go ahead and report to the police, and he himself would stay and fight Gunwon. Junwon's 4 years of training in prison is different now, and Sae-Roy is exhausted after the incident, so he was beaten a lot by Gunwon. The boss and his juniors were defeated by Senkwon, but the honest guy spared his life, only hoping the boss would be a good person. On this side, Sae-Roy thought he was dead, as the thought of saving Iseo gave him more strength. Sae-Roy stood up again, making Gunwon also admire. He used all his strength to defeat Gunwon, but he himself collapsed due to exhaustion. Just then, Iseo returned with the police. The two happily hugged each other. The next morning, Sua submitted all evidence of Jangga's crime to the police. Immediately, Chairman Zhang's house was ransacked. Investigation. The whole group was investigated for embezzlement and bribery. Chairman Zhang wanted to admit all the blame because he was about to die anyway, but the secretary said the partner restaurants all wanted to cancel the contract. The situation was this caused Jangga to go bankrupt and have to sell the company. Chairman Zhang heard this and panicked because he was about to lose everything. He asked for help everywhere, but could not. The chairman bitterly realized that now only Sae-Roy could save him. Jonwon was in prison on charges of failed arrest and murder, and had a criminal record that put him in prison for life. Sae-Roy this side also woke up in the hospital. The first thing he did was hug the person he loved, but Iseo's mother was extremely angry after knowing everything, so she scolded Sae-Roy for a while at the hospital. Unexpectedly, Sae-Roy only said "I'm sorry," which made Iseo's mother happy, and Iseo was equally happy. They happily left the hospital to go home together. But as soon as they arrived at the restaurant, they saw the President John came here to entertain him, so Sae-Roy personally went into the kitchen. He personally brought it up and invited President John to enjoy the dish. The taste was so delicious that it made him have a different view of Sae-Roy abilities. Sae-Roy now announced that he would merge Jangga into his company. At the same time, removing the name Jangga permanently. President John, with an extremely sad face, suddenly stood up. suddenly knelt down and sincerely apologized with Sae-Roy. He did evil deeds all his life, but at the last moment he turned around. He asked Sae-Roy to forgive this poor old man, and then he bowed his head to the ground. Sae-Roy had hoped that Chairman Jang would kneel down, but now he was not happy at all. He was moved to forgive him everything, but the merger would still have to proceed. The chairman of two started a business with empty hands, so a large corporation. In the end, because he still lost everything because he had no heart. Then the meeting to merge Junga into Sae-Roy's company was held. Sae-Roy naturally held the position of president. He received complete support from the shareholders. Jonsu's side, after Sae-Roy's life-saving grace, he respected Sae-Roy even more. He gave up his ambition from then on and took a new path. Sae-Roy went from being a young man with two empty hands. His father was assassinated and lost while he was in prison, but with a good heart and an unyielding will, in the end they gained all the happiness and wealth. Sae-Roy and Yiseo went out all that day. Forever later, he had enough courage to hold Yiseo's hand. He gave her a very passionate kiss. They lived a very happy life together. The movie ends here. If you find it interesting, please subscribe to the channel to watch the next videos. Goodbye and see you in the next videos.